Donald Trump is coming after the Southern Poverty Law Center. Guys, gals, and in-between pals, welcome back to another episode of Resistance Radio. As always, my name is Dane. I'm one of your co-hosts and super communist. And to my right today is Emma Embers, the Chaos Queen and autistic gender bender.
The one and only.
And joining, obviously, through the computer, James, our AI assistant.
You know, I wish they'd really just upgrade me so they get the face physics right.
James PT.
I mean, I think his face physics look pretty good, but
Ooh.
I was making a joke at myself for being ugly.
Spicy gay tension over here. I like it.
Okay. Well, we have a lot more news to react to, including, but not limited to, regular Joe Gigantic, flock cameras being denied in Oshkosh, and some beagles. Stay tuned for more.
How is the ace person the most perverted one on the pod?
It's a duty and a curse at the same time.
If you stick a knife in my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, there's no progress. You pull it all the way out, that's not progress. The progress is healing the wound that the blow made.
People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing.
But do you know what the most significant addiction crisis in America is today? It is the greed of the billionaire class.
This country was built on gangs. Mm-hmm. You know, I think this country still is run on gangs. Republicans, Democrats, the police department, the FBI, the CIA, those are gangs. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
To the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
It's called the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it.
Our first bit of news is going to be in regards to Donald Trump coming after the Southern Poverty Law Center, which, for those of you who are not aware, obviously they are a law center that is based in the South that has deep roots in the movement for the liberation of people of color. And they are known quite famously for documenting hate groups across the country. They have this really unique map where you can pull up your state and see all the documented hate groups that are out there. So I wonder why Trump doesn't like them.
Yep.
Good afternoon. Today, a few minutes ago, in the Middle District of Alabama.
Oh, what a great guy. What a great guy that they had come out here.
Also, can we talk about how Cash can't stop fucking moving?
I think he's on a little bit more than alcohol, allegedly.
Yeah. Well, the alcohol one is he's on video.
Allegedly.
Drinking a lot. That's not allegedly, that's on video. But
Maybe,
allegedly his problem goes beyond what's on the videotape.
Yes.
Yeah, didn't that lawsuit? He filed a lawsuit against some newspaper for saying he drank a lot, and it got dismissed by the judge almost immediately, despite him swearing up and down that it was a legal slam dunk for him to win. Like...
Yeah, because the judge was like, you're literally on video drinking with the U.S. hockey team. Like, they got you. Like...
You don't want a vexatious litigant in charge of the FBI, but what else do you expect from the Trump administration?
Yeah, pretty much.
Grand jury returned an 11-count indictment charging the Southern Poverty Law Center with 6 counts of wire fraud, 4 counts of bank fraud, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit money laundering. According to the charges in the indictment, the SPLC is a nonprofit.
Okay. First of all, why are they on this fraud kick? When Jared Kushner literally accepted billions of dollars from the Saudis, Trump has a plane that was bought by the Qatari government. Mm-hmm. And I mean, don't get me wrong, okay? Fraud is always bad. It's bad. It's not a good thing.
You're not a pro-fraud shit.
Right. But I'm just saying, keep the same fucking energy when it's Trump as you do when it's liberal institutions or whatever you want to call it. And then conspiracy to commit money laundering?
Yeah.
Motherfucker, Trump was indicted, 41 times?
I think it was 34 felony counts that he was convicted of, so he's a 34-time convicted felon, meaning he went through the process, the whole, innocent until proven guilty and all that, and then was proven guilty.
Yep. To learn more about that, quickly Google Trump Rule 34.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah.
Don't do that to people.
But no, on a more serious note, I've dug into this case. It's somehow much, much stupider than you think. But we'll get there in a minute as soon as the clip finishes.
An entity that purports to fight white supremacy and racial hatred by reporting on extremist groups and conducting research to inform law enforcement groups with the goal of dismantling these groups. As the indictment describes, the SPLC was not dismantling these groups. It was instead manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources to stoke racial hatred.
So, what happened is the Southern Poverty Law Center has traditionally used paid informants. They would either pay somebody that was high ranking in an extremist organization, or they would place somebody in an extremist organization to collect intel for them.
Like the police.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly like the police. Now,
The
they're
literal
wrong.
FBI.
Yes. Well, it is a little bit different because, they're not a state agency, so they don't have,
Well, yeah.
the legal monopoly on violence that governments tend to. But
Oh,
here's where
right.
it gets really stupid. What they're doing is that they're alleging that the Southern Poverty Law Center's paid informants drove these groups to extremism. So we've gone complete full circle. Like the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally, the Proud
Yeah,
Boys, a couple
yeah.
others are named in this. We have gone completely from no, they're not extremists to yeah, they are extremists, but only because the Democrats made them.
Yeah. Supposedly the biggest watchdog on extremism is actually the biggest driver of the extremism.
I just love, and I can't wait. We have more videos about, related topics. I'm assuming Subpar Joe is going to talk a little bit about something similar, but like, they're always saying that we're pushing extremism, and it's so wild. Like, we had that episode with Representative Ahmad Rivera Wagner, friend of the show, where we were talking about how we're not radical. Like, there are no, a left-wing extreme group wants everybody to have health care.
Yeah. Exactly.
They don't want a fucking race war.
Yeah. No, and whereas a majority of the right is that at this point, that they just want the race war. They want things to happen. They're encouraging people to do more violent extremist things like driving trucks through protesters and stuff like that.
Right.
That's their entire movement. Their entire movement's doing that. With us, when like even with something like Luigi, we're like, or Charlie Kirk is a better example.
Or Warehouse Guy.
Yeah, it's like, if you hurt people in that, you shouldn't have done that. That's bad. But at the same time,
You can understand what drove somebody to take an action while not agreeing with the action itself. It's not that complicated.
Right.
And our motivations are always like, we want to help people. We want to be more compassionate. We want the system that hurts people to stop hurting people. And theirs is always, no, we want the system to hurt people. We want people to be pushed down unless they're us.
Right.
Basically. And so and also what makes this whole situation suck a lot is that there might actually, it's entirely possible that there could be real fraud claims for the Southern Poverty. Like, nobody's perfect. They could easily be
And I'd want
doing
that
fraud.
investigated.
Yeah. But the problem is you can never trust any of that with the Trump administration because they show that they are constantly... Yeah, they are literally full of frauds, including the chief head poobah of fraud himself, Donald Trump. They've already said that they want to go after all their political opponents and stuff like that, and the Southern Poverty Law Center is a major driver of their opponents. So, in terms of it's actually going after the extreme elements that move the right forward.
Right.
So it makes sense that they would target that, but even if there are legitimate fraud claims in there, it's hard to take it seriously because they're also going so far out of their depth with charges too. That's what they did with Luigi, charging him with terrorism.
Yeah.
For killing one guy with no expectation of terrorizing anybody.
Right. They're obsessed with fraud, as we've seen. I mean, we had a fucking reel go viral talking about conservative mood rings, right? This is their purple on the fucking mood ring that they have.
And they don't stop talking about they're still talking about the Somalis, but a lot
Somali fraud.
Yeah. Well, but they're even de-emphasizing the Somali part. They'll still bring it up every once in a while just to be like, hey, don't forget you have to hate the black people too.
Right.
But they've moved on to where it's just generic fraud now, and they're just going after fraud everywhere, supposedly. Yeah. It's just like the whole waste, fraud, and abuse shit with Doge, where it's completely made up, and what they're going after is very little actual waste, fraud, and abuse, and just good stuff.
I will argue, like, the converse that still agrees with you. I'll argue that government fraud is a huge, huge problem. There are a shitload of organizations that take advantage of government grants, do stupid shit, like look locally, New Cap, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is these investigations are only going to find 50% of the fraud at max. No points for correctly guessing what fraud they won't find. And you know,
Right.
do you know how many billionaires have actually sat in prison in the United States?
Not many.
Yeah.
And Trump is pardoning a shitload of them, so.
2.
Yeah. And
2.
like wage theft is the real fucking fraud here.
It's
Like-
literally the number one source of theft.
Yeah.
2. One was a certain Mr. Epstein, which we're not even sure was actually a billionaire. And the other one
Or
was
killed himself.
Yeah. And the other one was fucking Bernie Madoff, who made the critical mistake of stealing from the rich.
Yep.
Mm.
Steal from the poor and you're fine.
While we're on the topic of fraud, I believe we've mentioned this a few times in earlier episodes, the suspiciously timed bets. When something crazy happens, there's always somebody who has just enough insider information to drop something on Polymarket. And, well, we've got an official first case charged.
We're learning that a special forces soldier has been charged for making more than $400,000 by betting on whether or not Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro would be removed from office. And here's the thing, according to the indictment, the officer participated in the planning and execution of the operation and used that classified information to allegedly profit. Remember, Maduro and his wife were captured during a nighttime raid in Caracas by U.S. forces in early January. They're charged with drug trafficking. Both have pleaded not guilty. We've reached out to Polymarket for comment. I want to go right to Tom Winter, who is reporting on this for us. Tom, what are you learning?
Right. So this indictment was just unsealed in the last 20, 30 minutes or so. The arrest had been underway for some time. The plan to make this arrest, the individual Gannon Ken Van Dyke. That's Gannon Ken Van Dyke is a member of the U.S. Special Forces, actually reports to the JSOC, the Joint Special Operations Command. It was actively involved in planning the whole Maduro incident, had made a number of bets over a series of time. Remember, the time period for this operation had shifted.
I want to be very clear, and we have said this before on the show when we've talked about these bets. This is flat out hard evidence that they don't give a fuck about you. It can't be made more clear that your tax dollars are going to war, right? Going to a cause that benefits you in no way, makes your life more difficult, right? Because fucking gas goes up, right? You know, the price of imports goes up. And these motherfuckers are betting on it.
Yep.
And making hundreds of thousands of dollars off of the premise of making your life worse.
There's 3 other problems here. First one is this guy allegedly made $40,000.
400,000.
400,000, excuse me. Allegedly made 400,000 off of it. We know that people also made billions off of it.
Yeah.
The people that made billions off of it, we haven't heard of a single arrest in those cases.
Well, because they're the people that are lobbying the government and donating to the government.
And in the government. Because
It's
I'm
in
almost
the
certain that at least some of them are cabinet officials. Like, there's
No,
no way.
Absolutely.
Or even Trump himself could be the top one. Who fucking knows? The point is, they're going after this guy because he's the patsy. Like, he very well could have been brought in the whole time, specifically so he could be the patsy. And they'll give him a lighter sentence or whatever else. And just be like, look, you're the one that we're going to be all like, look, we found the person that was doing the fraud in the betting. And then, you know, you can look away and look at the next distraction.
It's because he made enough money one time doing what they do every fucking day.
Yep.
It's funny because every week Trump goes in front of the TV cameras in the nation and he either announces like, oh no, the ceasefire's back off, or the ceasefire's on, or the strait is open, or the strait is closed, or no, Iran can't close the strait because we closed it first. And every single time he does this dumb shit, there are billions of dollars in perfectly timed Polymarket bets that make people an absolute shitload of money. And how many of those people have been arrested? Not a
None.
damn one. But who
Right.
does get arrested? The one person who does it, who's, you know, and I'm not saying this is the right action. It is fucking fraud. But the one person that does get arrested is the person making a working class income in the army.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
And who does the army go after? They go after the low income communities. They go after, you know, the working class.
Yep.
So
the first place they bombed in the Iran war was
excuse him for trying to use the fucking tools that the elites are to make his way. You know, somehow that's wrong, but no, fucking Raytheon can go kill more brown kids in Lebanon and nobody cares.
This is why I say that the rich have essentially been waging class warfare on us for over 100 years, but they only started calling it class warfare the second we started getting class consciousness and fighting back.
Yeah.
So I think we should just embrace the class war angle and just be like, you guys have been doing this to us for over 100 years. What's wrong with us finally starting to do something back?
Yeah. In other news, another flock contract has been terminated in the state of Wisconsin. The first one was Sturgeon Bay. And this one is Oshkosh. And it is pretty wild situation that we are going to relay back to you here. And then we also have to talk about the Onion consuming Alex Jones and kind of turning him woke.
A unanimous decision from Oshkosh Common Council on Wednesday night to reverse course and rescind its agreement for flock safety cameras. Now, it followed a contentious meeting and a 5-2 vote initially to keep the cameras, but the Oshkosh police chief says flock presented them with incorrect information. Here's the moment it happened from Tuesday night.
Just to be clear, does the system create a heat map of a vehicle's movement using the multiple aggregated images for a specific searched vehicle?
No, that is not available.
The police chief sharing more on Wednesday.
In fact, my staff advised me that the system does create heat maps. I visually confirmed this morning because of this misrepresentation, specifically to a question asked by a council member. I can no longer recommend flock.
Several council members who voted in favor of the cameras apologizing to Oshkosh residents. Flock Safety sent us a statement before the meeting saying, "It's incredibly disappointing to hear that statements made during last evening's open meeting have been misinterpreted and weaponized by activists."
Bro. Okay. So first of all, shouts out to their city council for getting rid of that, right? And I think Emma might want to talk a little bit more about that, how that is applicable to us here in Green Bay. But like, okay, couple of things. Number one, them using the excuse, well, Flock told us it was safe. Like, what the fuck did you think was going to happen?
Motherfucker, I knew Flock created heat maps. Like, I don't work for them. I have nothing. How is their representative going to get that wrong? That isn't just a mistake. That is fucking willfully misleading people.
Man, you know, they told me there wasn't asbestos in the building that they sold me for $2, but oh, wow. Like, who would have thought? Like, really? Come on, guys. You know for a damn fact that the reason the cop knows that Flock makes heat maps, right? The aggregate heat maps that they talked about is because that motherfucker is a weirdo and was probably stalking his ex or his girlfriend or some shit, saw that it made the map and then was like, oh, fuck, you know? And thankfully, it sucks that they would do that in the first place, allegedly, if that's what they did. I mean, it's shit that we all knew was happening. And I mean, yeah, I'm happy that they did that and that they rescinded this deal because Green Bay just fucking made one.
Yep. Yeah, December 15th of last year, Green Bay approved a Flock contract, and every single person who went up there to speak spoke about how bad Flock was and how the things that they were saying weren't true. And the response from city council at the time and the mayor was, and of course the Flock people, was to basically like talk down to them and be like for example, bringing up surveillance as a concern. The mayor literally was like, no, it's not surveillance. It's just cameras that are looking at things. Yeah. And you happen to be in those things. And it's like, yeah, that's surveillance. You're just trying to describe it as something different so that way you can get off from it.
Officer, I wasn't spying on her changing. I was just looking out her window and she
Right.
walked.
And the other thing about the license plate cameras and the heat maps and all that shit, I'm not a tech executive, or excuse me, I was trying to say a tech.
You're not?
I'm not a tech expert. Was what I was trying to say. But I do know enough about that to know that individuals are connected to license plates. Like where my license plate goes, that's where I, as an individual, am going. So this is how they play fast and loose with words to try and get out of this stuff, because they're like, no, we don't track individuals. We just track license plates. Yeah, but you know who has that license plate? A fucking individual. Believe it or not. It's a crazy coincidence, I know, on Flock's part. But the other part of this is we have a new city council now. There's a lot of the same members, but we've gotten several new ones.
Former podcasts, some of them.
Yes, and others future podcasts. Yes, if it goes the way that I want it to. I feel pretty safe on how 2 of them at least would vote, because we know how they voted in the last one, which was no. And that was Alyssa Prophet and Joey Presley. Shout out to them. But this time I'm hoping that since we have a lot of flip over on the council, that we'll have a little bit better luck, because if Oshkosh can turn around and go from 5-2 approving it to unanimously disapproving it, I expect a lot out of our city council, and I will be at that meeting and I will bring up these points, and we will make it abundantly clear that they have a responsibility to do the right thing. They did not listen to us before when we told them this would happen. 4 months later, we're seeing this exact thing that we told them was going to happen, and now they're going to have to look stupid and reverse themselves, but they should. And this would be a great time for Ritterbusch to change his vote too, because he voted for it last time, which was a huge mistake.
Call your city council right now, because all the Wisconsin cities have new members, updated members. So now is the time to call them and use this Oshkosh as an example of, hey, this happened in Oshkosh. We need to do this here.
Right.
Because you having examples as proof is huge. So even your Republicans and your not progressives are going to be on board with this.
Yeah, I wasn't stalking her, officer. I was just monitoring the location of her home address.
Right.
I was just checking her heat map, sir.
Back to what Emma had said too, I just want to kind of go in on that a little bit more. We had a current member of the city council, a new elect, right? John Shelton, had him on one of the episodes. One of the questions we asked was about the Flock vote. John, obviously, love you, big fans, right? But this is on the so-called progressive 6-pack to vote against something like this, right? I mean, progressive 5-pack, but,
well,
you know.
That's a bit of a touchy subject for everyone that's not us.
Right. But it's on y'all to vote on that and to let Oshkosh be an example. And we want to congratulate as well, a little bit late coming, but we endorsed her. We want to congratulate Alyssa Prophet, who was elected as president of city council in the most recent meeting. So big win for us here. But again, this is us telling you guys, we were talking about this Flock thing
months ago.
This is the left being right.
Mm-hmm. And if you're listening and you don't know why these Flock cameras are such a big deal, some of you who are closer to mine or Emma's ages, not like Dane's age, might remember when the Patriot Act passed, and then, surprise, surprise, all of a sudden there's a huge scandal with the NSA collecting a shitload of Americans' personal data without any warrants.
Yep.
Flock collects way more data than the NSA ever did. Oh, and the NSA program was found unconstitutional. I'm sure they're still doing it because it's a bunch of sneaky bastards.
Yeah.
Well, and now they have all the tech bros in their pocket anyway, so.
Well, yeah. But Flock is collecting more data than that ever did. And somehow it's supposed to be okay because it's a private company under contract with the police department, so they don't need a warrant. So I guess you can collect as much information about anybody you want without even asking them, as long as somebody's making a profit on it. Go capitalism.
Yep. Edward Snowden, right? The fucking hero that man is, literally was facing the death penalty for revealing that.
And probably worse, honestly.
Like, we knew that was happening on like a fucking Wednesday. Yeah. And like, what?
Mm-hmm.
But a big fan of government surveillance, actually a very large proponent of government surveillance.
One could almost say a gigantic proponent of government surveillance.
Yeah, but not as gigantic as...
We're introducing the wrong guest.
I was going to say that, James. I was going to say not as gigantic Joe.
You ruined the flow, man.
Well, that's my job. But yes.
Yes.
Alex Jones.
I'm going to start paying that GPT bill.
A giant proponent of government surveillance. I hate to even say that in a, I don't like this man at all. Horrible, despicable human being. Alex Jones, we all know him. We all hate him. Got consumed by a woke onion.
A onion, if you will.
Yes, a onion. And, he is the former host of Infowars. And The Onion is a very popular liberal, progressive satire magazine first and then social media. And they now basically control his show. So we're going to hear a little bit more about that.
Yep.
Yeah. So The Onion, this is actually the second time they're about to control Alex Jones's intellectual property, if you can call it that, in massive.
I was going to say there's not much intellectual property there.
Not much intellectual in the property.
I will actually argue that man is much smarter than he appears, but we'll get into that in a second. But yeah,
drugs and alcohol dulled the brain, though.
No, I have a theory about this. We'll get into that in a second, though. But first, let's see what the new update is about The Onion owning Infowars.com.
Conspiracy theorist Alex Jones is vowing to fight a new deal. It would let the satirical website The Onion take over his far-right media company, Infowars. If the deal is approved by a Texas judge, it would force Jones out. NPR's Tovia Smith reports The Onion wants to turn Infowars into a parody of itself.
The deal is backed by the families of those killed in the 2012 Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting who sued Jones for defamation after he spread lies that the families faked the deaths of their children to boost support for gun control. One of their attorneys, Chris Maddy, says under the deal, The Onion would mock Jones's brand of conspiracy theories on his own platform.
When Infowars finally goes dark, the machinery of lies that Jones built will become a force for social good.
Jones immediately accused The Onion of trying to steal his identity and asked his followers to help support his fight by buying what he said may be his last run of Infowars merch. Even if the deal is approved, Jones would still be able to broadcast from a different studio under a different brand name. Tovia Smith, NPR News.
I think it's so funny that every time disaster strikes, he's like, buy merch, buy supplements, buy Alpha Brain.
Yeah, first of all, this is definitely not the last time he'll be selling that merch. They have the chance to do the funniest thing ever. If that bitch is desperate enough for money, to just say, why don't you stay on, but you're going to be part of the parody now? Because then they don't have to use AI, which
I bet he'd do it
anyway.
I bet he'd do it.
He probably is. He's probably desperate enough to be like, whatever. It's a job.
I mean, yeah, after all that he owes those families, I forgot exactly what the number was, but it was gigantic.
I can't even begin to put myself in their position, but however, I do feel like that would be some kind of cosmic justice to have him actually be forced to do the parody of himself for The Onion. Like that's worth its weight in gold.
And I'm going to do a little prediction of what AI program James is going to say. I don't think he actually believes the stuff that he's saying, so I don't think it would be difficult for him.
No, probably not.
I live in the middle of nowhere and somebody slaps Infowars.com signs on all the traffic signs around here. So it'd be absolutely hilarious. Yeah. Don't know who, but there's exactly one conspiracy theory that I believe in, and that's the meta-conspiracy theory. There's two kinds of people. You either trust the official statements or you don't, generally, right? And as long as you trust the official statements and approved sources and, experts in the field, there's a wealth of information to go off of. There is a lot of peer-reviewed literature. There is a lot of people debating the nuances of that same topic, right? You can pretty easily find out if whatever idea you have is accepted by the consensus or not. But if you stop agreeing with the official statements, you don't have any of that anymore. You don't have anybody to have a rational debate about what's true or what's false. So my theory is that the moment you start questioning the government, you try and find people that are critical of the government, you are going to find yourself on Alex Jones's show. Or you're going to find yourself watching Alex Jones, who discredits everything just by his presence. The amount of times that man has said something that has just the tiniest nugget of truth in it, but expressed in such a way that it's completely misleading and useless, like his gay frogs rant, the famous one everybody knows.
That's
It was
true.
They're turning the freaking frogs gay.
It's true.
exactly. It was chemical runoff from some plant that was producing some shit that turned some of the frogs hermaphroditic. It's a fucking, we don't have a strong enough EPA problem, but he's framing it as Obama's doing it to make your kids gay. Like, you start questioning the sources, you find yourself listening to Alex Jones. None of your opinions are worth anything anymore.
There's people like Alex Jones and like all the COVID truthers and all that are like, they'll ignore real conspiracy theories with actual evidence in favor of their made up kook bullshit.
I don't know if that's
like, for example, look at the Epstein class. The Epstein class is a great example of this. You would think that a global pedophile ring would be conspiracy theory, massive conspiracy theory. Crazy
it is their conspiracy theory,
but it's happening, and yet they're still talking about like they're ignoring the Epstein stuff and still focused on like the Pizzagate bullshit and all that, which didn't happen. For our next couple of clips, we have a gigantic douchebag on Emma's Keeping It Local segment. This time talking about Senator Chris Murphy and a little whoopsie that he had on Twitter, which is not that big of a deal, but we'll get into that.
It's regular Joe, Subpar Joe, gigantic.
That's fair.
Senator Chris Murphy has gotten himself in some hot water. I mean, everyone getting hot water on social media. You breathe the wrong direction. But in this case, posting on X in response to a post that said 26 ships in Iran's shadow fleet had made it past the U.S. blockade in the Gulf of Oman, he wrote the word awesome. It's pretty obvious he's trying to be sarcastic. He's not been a supporter of what the president's doing. He's like, oh, awesome. Like, way to go, buddy, right? Well, he was called on the carpet for this, and here's his non-apology apology.
Twitter's become kind of a cesspool. I probably should give up on sarcasm on Twitter. Obviously, anybody that's seen anything that I have said about Trump's war knows that I think it's bungled, mismanaged. He should end it as quickly as possible. But sarcasm is not something, I guess, that's allowed on.
Okay.
No bonus points for guessing exactly when Twitter became a shithole.
Right. And it is awesome that they got past.
Yeah, no, so he's going to get into this more as he goes, but like one of the things that they've been saying about this from the right is that like you should be, actually even from some of the center and left parts, it's like just because we're involved in this illegal, unconstitutional, and war crimes full war, I don't know how to put that.
War crimes
ridden war, thank you. You can't be opposed to that. Or you can be opposed to that as an American, but you still have to root for America, basically. And I think that's bullshit. Like, if we do something bad, we should be able to say, no, it's bad that we're doing this. And I'm glad that in this case, like, it's again, back to what we were saying before about how we don't support the Ayatollah or the regime or anything like that. Right. I just don't want us doing the wrong thing.
It's more patriotic to be critical.
Yes, it is.
Like,
because if you all blind loyalty gets you is the death of your country, because you ignore all the problems and let them fester and fester and fester until finally they destroy your country.
We're more patriotic than Subpar Joe is.
We absolutely are. Also, the other part is he did the same thing that Andrea did in her first video on the Wimberger situation, where he's like, actually, the whole thing is kind of pointless. Like, he made a whoopsie on Twitter. Who hasn't? He was like, he said
you
this.
breathed the wrong way.
He acknowledged that it was sarcasm and was like, yeah, do. But then after saying, you breathe the wrong way on social media, you get some shit and it's not that big of a deal and all that, he goes into why it's actually kind of a big deal, which is stupid. Like, just don't undermine your own point before you start.
And before you start calling us in the comment section supporters of Iran, none of us are, and it's not that fucking complicated. The only reason Iran is the regime it is today is because we fucked with the democratizing country. I don't know what the answer to this problem is. It's a fucking complicated one that smarter people than me don't have answers for, but I'm pretty sure we don't make the world a better place by fucking with those people more.
Yeah. I don't think you made a strong enough point, actually. I'll put it this way. If I had the Infinity Gauntlet of Thanos and I could do like snap and do anything, every single global leader would be fucking poofed, and then the people would be able to start over. If you want to know if I support a regime across the globe, no, I don't give a shit. I don't even care if they're one that I like.
Right.
If I could just magically disappear all current existing politicians and we start over, sorry to my friends on the city council, I would do that because like, fuck them. But that doesn't mean that we have carte blanche, Todd Blanche, to do whatever the hell we want to do with impunity, including commit war crimes.
And it's important, just to elaborate on what James said, the U.S. is the hegemony in the global politics scene.
Yep.
So any country that stands against the U.S. empire is in the right.
Yeah.
In my opinion. And that's a conversation we can have another time, because I'm sure James has some pushback on that.
For legal purposes, I don't necessarily agree fully with that point. FBI, please don't come arrest us. We're not actually traitors.
Let's put it this way, right? You can be right for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Right. True.
We can think that it's funny how bad the U.S. is failing at trying to fuck with a Middle East country. We can think it's kind of awesome how effectively Iran is sticking up against Donald Trump, because we've been over here on the left, we've been starved for someone to stick up against Donald Trump, while also condemning nearly every other action that regime makes. The defining characteristic that the majority of world leaders share in common is that they're all shitbags.
Sarcasm's allowed. The question is why? Because what's the message you're sending to our military? What's the message you're sending to our enemies? What's the message you're sending in general when you want to be sarcastic about this? First of all, you're pretending that a report that came from the gaslighting Iranian media should be treated like it's true in the first place. I mean, this is the game. Whose side are you on is the question.
I have made numerous TikToks about this, okay? It is so annoying to me that when I am talking about a country, right, in any country, usually socialist projects, right, China, whatever, and I quote a primary source, somebody from that country saying something, right? Like somebody will make a claim about Xi Jinping, and I'm like, no, Xi Jinping believes this because I have read a book that Xi Jinping wrote. They say that that's propaganda.
Yep.
But nothing that the U.S. says is ever propaganda. Other countries can make propaganda, so can the U.S. So just to blindly say that everything that comes out of Iran, that comes out of China, that comes out of Russia even, is propaganda is crazy.
Yep. And here's the message to the troops that he wants us to send. Since he asked us, what does that say? What it says is, I want you all home. I don't want any of you there. Right. I don't want you in that position. I don't want you...
They don't want to be there.
Maimed, dead. I want you home. That's our position. I want you home with your families. And as if I had my way in terms of how we handle the military, we would almost never need you.
But good old Yakuhuda's Joe isn't done there. What else do we got?
M. Snow's word for this. CNN, John Brennan, this Intel guy, the same people that lied to us, told us this is the best version of Joe Biden we saw. The laptop was Russian disinformation. Suddenly, though, well, they got it right this time. Again, could Kash Patel do a little more? Could he do some things better? I think he could, actually.
Pretty legendary at drinking, so.
They did lie, in a sense, saying that this is the best Joe Biden we've ever seen.
Yeah.
I'm willing to call a spade a spade. Mm-hmm. That was fucked up. That was a lie, right? Who got sued for lying?
Yep.
What news agency? And what viewpoint did it push?
Right.
Election denial.
Yeah. Also,
hence fraud from earlier.
The thing about Joe Biden was, yes, his team and the Democrats were hiding it. I was one of the first people that, like, before the rest of the party came out and was like, get rid of Joe Biden. Like, immediately after that debate, I was like, no, get this guy the fuck out of here. We cannot do this. And so naturally, when the push actually started for real, I was like, get him out of there. Like, even if we have to do Kamala temporarily, we can live with it. Whatever. Just get him out of there. Since I'm technically a Democrat, I have to say. I'm not one of those Democrats that just says what the leadership does is fine and we go along with it. No, fuck them. They're all shitbags. He helped do a genocide. I'm not going to mourn him when he's gone. The problem is they're doing the exact same thing for Trump right now.
Right.
They are covering up every little example that we have that Trump is clearly demented and has some serious issues. They're doing the exact same thing now. Like, they shit all over the Democrats for doing that with Biden, and now they're doing the exact same thing every fucking day. So no, spare me the hypocrisy trolling, because you guys are the biggest fucking hypocrites on the planet.
See, the thing is, before you in the comments accuse us of the same thing, there are some local politicians that we dislike, but I can promise you, on the federal level, we hate the Democrat leadership almost as much as we hate MAGA.
Yep.
And if there's a right-wing commentator out there who will do the same thing, you know, I might disagree with you on almost fucking everything, but you'll have my respect.
Yeah, I mean, we've even said we'll have right-wingers on the pod.
But to sit here and defame somebody, they tried the same treatment on Pete Hegseth. And let me tell you something. I can prove how it won't be real. Let's just say Kash Patel stepped down because of it. Then it'd be finished. You wouldn't hear another word about it. Just like Eric Swalwell. Don't you remember just last week we had press conferences? Women were coming out of the woodwork. It was terrible. The world was ending. And he had to be held to account. He got the message. Get out of the way. We don't want you anymore. He stepped aside. And now it's not even in the news. Amazing how that works.
Because he stepped aside.
Yeah,
he resigned.
What else do you want them to do? Shoot them in the square? Like, what? Of course they stop talking about it when they're no longer in the office. If a random person goes at somebody, because that's what Swalwell did, that they should be charged and taken to court. But I just mean, like, drinking too much like Pete Hegseth. That's not a criminal offense, but it is something that I don't want my Secretary of War doing.
Right.
Like, so yeah, of course I stop caring if he's not Secretary of War anymore. Like, it's stupid.
And in other news, as we had mentioned in the beginning of the show, there was a daring attempted rescue from a breeding and testing ground of dogs, in this case, particularly beagles, that happened this past week. And it happened in Wisconsin.
The place in question, it is a beagle breeding facility and a laboratory, which this is not the first time activists have gone after this place. The last time, the lab had to surrender their breeding license to avoid criminal charges.
Hundreds of activists tried to force their way into a facility containing thousands of beagles in Wisconsin. Police responded with rubber bullets and pepper spray.
My face is burning, my neck is burning. I got pepper sprayed.
Ridglan Farms breeds beagles that are sold for medical and scientific research. The site houses around 2,000 dogs, according to the Wisconsin State Journal.
They don't know grass, they don't know love, they don't know comfort, and they deserve freedom.
Around 1,000 activists gathered in Blue Mounds, a town near Madison, and authorities said things quickly turned violent, leading to a significant number of arrests.
We have actively right now about 300 to 400 activists that are violently trying to break into the property and assault our Dane County Sheriff's Office deputies and those that are on site. They have break-in tools. They are cutting through the fence. They have breached through with a vehicle and drove around the property.
In March, protesters entered the property and took 30 beagles. 27 people were arrested.
I know I'm the radical one on this show, and so I'm going to say that this is my opinion, and you guys are free to agree with me if you want. I don't see how that is violent. They weren't going after people. They were going in there to save these animals that, as the lady said, have never seen grass.
Yeah. And if you know anything about dogs, knowing that they've never gotten to really be outside and stuff like that, that's horrible.
They're trafficking dogs.
Yeah.
It said that they sell them.
Yeah.
To be tested.
Mm-hmm. For testing purposes specifically. They literally, it showed on the website, bred to be better. Like, that's not better to be your household pet. And even if it was, breeding is still a major problem.
And
where people go and breed in very bad conditions and then sell the puppies, sell the cats, whatever.
I absolutely love how the police say how violent it was.
Mm-hmm.
And what they used to quantify that is how many people they violently arrested.
Yep.
Oh, it was so violent. We had to force 400 people into the ground, put our boots on their back, and handcuff them.
And every time you look into this, when they say this at protests and stuff, it's always the police that are inciting the violence.
Right.
And then escalating things when protesters are constantly, the whole reason we have marshals at protests is to de-escalate these situations and manage them ourselves. And then police just show up in full military gear and snipers on the fucking roof and shit like that. And suddenly you have a situation where all these people don't feel very safe anymore. You know, so like it's the same concept. Like if all they're doing is trying to save some puppies, leave them the fuck alone. Like in fact, help them save the fucking puppies and go after these actual criminals that are running these kinds of shows.
As the designated moderate member of the pod, I've got a lot of mixed feelings about this, right? So, on one hand, and I don't like this, but it's an unfortunate fact of the world that we live in, that every medication that you take, almost all cosmetic products, a shit ton of stuff that you just take for granted in life relies really, really heavily on animal testing.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, like this facility had barbed wire fences and a moat filled with manure to keep people out. And when you're taking those kind of measures, I can't imagine for a second that you're the good guys in the situation. And I can't imagine that you're trying to minimize the harm you're causing to these animals wherever possible. We can do better.
Yep, absolutely.
Ridglan Farms denies mistreating animals, saying on its website that no credible evidence of abuse has been substantiated.
Has been substantiated. You gave up your breeding license to avoid criminal charges, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Company
kept
has
breeding, by the way.
Agreed to give up its state breeding license by July as part of a deal to avoid prosecution over animal welfare concerns.
I'm just sort of a very law-abiding Midwestern woman, but this is like if you saw not just one dog, but 1,900 dogs trapped in a hot car suffering horribly, and you didn't break through the windows to get in.
And if you did, the cops would then show up in full riot gear and beat the fuck. This is why I always say framing is like 9/10 of the law when it comes to politics and related things, is because how you frame something makes a world of difference in how it comes out. And just like the breaking the windows example, like if you're breaking into the windows to rescue the dogs, you're helping those dogs. Everybody agrees that you're helping those dogs.
It is a good thing.
So if you send a bunch of fucking cops in riot gear to beat the fuck out of whoever broke that window because they were being violent, that would look pretty ridiculous.
Right.
And that's why I always say that framing is 9/10 of the law when it comes to this kind of stuff, because how you frame something makes a world of difference in how that's perceived. Like if you say like a bunch of violent activists stormed this facility to, you know, harm people and dogs and stuff, like there were 2,000 dogs here that could have been harmed. Yeah, and then the cops had to beat them all up and there's 400 of them in jail, then yeah, it sounds pretty drastic. But when you frame it like it's no different than if they broke into a car to get a dog or a baby for that matter out of a hot car, and then the cops fucking beat their ass and took them to jail.
And I just want to add on to that. I 100% agree. And I've talked multiple times on the show about how much I love Andor.
Yep.
One of my favorite lines that stuck with me the most from Andor is one of the rebel leaders is talking to a non-rebel, and they say, "What do you have to fear if you're not doing anything wrong?" And she replies and says, "I fear your definition of wrong."
Yeah, exactly. As far as the necessary evil angle goes, yes, that's how the system currently works, but we can change that. Like we can just make it to where we don't need to do this anymore.
Right.
Or we can rely less on products that have a million different chemicals in them that we have to test on animals, and just find other, or I mean okay, never mind.
No,
We're going to do a whole
no,
other
look.
moral debate about cloning.
Hold
but-
on, no, look. It's a necessary evil no matter what way you cut it, but there's a shitload of stuff that we can do to minimize the harm we're causing, and we're doing absolutely none of that because won't somebody please think of the shareholders?
Yeah.
When money becomes so important to your society that it becomes your morality, this is the kind of problem you end up with.
And that wraps up another episode of Resistance Radio. Thank you guys so much for listening, watching in whatever form you are doing. As I'm sure you are aware, podcast is growing. You can see we have these fancy headphones on here today. That is all thanks to you guys, our listeners, our fans. Please keep supporting us if you can. It's free to you and helps the show tremendously. As you are well aware, we are on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, even fucking Rumble. Even if you're not looking for us, you're going to fucking find us. And as I like to say, to wrap up every episode, get active, get wise, get organized.
Stay trashy, goblins, and remember...
Wait, no.
Huh?
You had a new one now. Remember, you used ChatGPT to come up with it. AKA me.
Right. All right. Remember, kids, look both ways before you cross the street. Fuck Ronald Reagan. Read Das Kapital.
10 out of 10. Nothing to add.
I did that on the right off the rip too, first take.
Yeah.
I was like, oh god, I'm probably gonna have to look at this